One of the things I love most about the hospitality industry, I've met so many VP of Ops, COOs, CEOs of these large businesses that started as like a frontline employee.
Big time.
Where else do you have that upward growth trajectory?
That's true. Actually, that's true. I never thought of it like that, but you're right.
Like it's phenomenal. Yeah. It's so, to me, like, love it. Like, man, you're really lifting people up.
Welcome to another episode of Whisking It All. We're joined today by Brock Weeks, the founder and CEO of Savi. Savi is a cloud-based video intelligence and operations platform, and it's really built for multi-unit restaurants and retailers. So, Brock, I'm excited to dive in. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Angelo. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
I know we'll get into a lot of cool stuff, but I always like to start with what is Savi, so people at least know who I'm talking to, and then we'll kind of go from there. So maybe we'll definitely go deeper, but at a high level, can you tell people in your own words, what is Savi?
Yeah, at a high level, Savi helps operators of multi-site restaurants, retailers, we classify as distributed enterprise, be able to understand the moments in their stores that are driving the results they achieve using video and AI.
Interesting.
So there is so many questions, right?
Yeah.
There's discrepancy, there's reviews, there's wait times, all of these things. The answers have been trapped in these video surveillance systems that have been being used as expensive insurance policies. But if AI can structure data, provide insight, you can now start to aggregate all of that data together to Cool. This is why we're getting negative wait times, is because it's taking this long to walk through a line. So we can dive into it more. But yeah,
cool.
It's all about understanding those moments that impact your results.
I love that. It makes a ton of sense. So, I always like understanding the why and the how behind it. So, we'll definitely get into the weeds and make sure people have a way to contact you, contact Savi, learn more. We have a lot of restaurant operators that listen in. So maybe this will resonate with some of our multi-unit operator listeners and they'll reach out. But I always like to understand the passion behind it. So I want to start off with your story. Like how did you kind of get into this journey of, I guess simply put, what made you want to start Savi? Maybe that's an easier way of putting it.
We'll start off with the end, which is completely lucked into the restaurant space. And now I don't ever see myself working in any other industry. It's so fun. Just such good people.
Agreed.
But I've been in security and automation and technology space the bulk of my career, from starting out of college in 2009. Was fortunate to join a pretty high growth home security and automation company. Spent some time in sales with them, and then with a large infusion of capital from a private equity transaction, I moved over to the corporate strategy team.
Nice.
We spent a lot of time looking at, back then, they had leveraged the security system to become a home automation system. Now it's kind of everyday use in our homes. We can control our thermostats and lights and door locks and stuff from our phones. But back then, there really wasn't an affordable way to do that. And we were kind of pioneers in that. And so as that started to ride its wave and we were looking from a strategy standpoint, we started looking at the commercial security space to see if the same type of thing could be done. And it was at that time that we saw the opportunity for Savi. It didn't make sense for that company to pursue it. The technology wasn't ready yet, which AI, being able to use computer vision in an affordable, economical way, just wasn't ready.
Right.
I left, went and did a tech startup for a few years, exited out of that. After about 6 months of hanging out and doing my thing with my family, we realized.
I gotta ask, what was that tech startup? Was it related to I gotta know the backstory.
I wasn't the founder of that one. I joined and helped them kind of take it to market and commercialize it. And it was in the health tech space.
Okay.
It was selling to orthopedic and cardiothoracic surgeons, a patient engagement platform.
Okay.
Yeah, really cool tech. Nowhere near as fun as spending time in the restaurant. So that same idea was like, all right, the technology is starting to converge where we can do this. And the premise of it was we met with all of these large operators with thousands of locations.
Yeah.
And they got all excited with simple features around an alarm system could tell us when the door was opened the first time so we know when the store was opened. And I was like, this fascinated me. I'm like, you have cameras in there already. Couldn't you just answer that question? And they're like, well, yeah, it's so hard to access. It's too time consuming. And, you're just, the only way you can really search it is by time, and no one has time to go and say, oh,
to
well,
keep
let's
guessing.
8:00.
Yeah.
It wasn't open. So when did it open?
8:02. Yeah. And that's one store. And then you got to do that in every store. Yeah, that's fair.
Correct. And so you were like, okay, well, there's that. And then they're like, but it's not just like that we don't know when the stores are opening if we're operating hundreds of thousands of sites. We see discrepancies amongst inventory and cash from a loss prevention standpoint. We get negative online reviews that say our service times or our service was terrible. Did we make them wait too long? Were we not friendly? Were we not staffed properly? Was it an operational problem? All of the kind of indicators that these multi-site restaurants get are all just symptoms. But you need to be able to point back to that root cause, and video and audio of the in-store interactions with guests, real live interactions, has that insight. It just needs to be easy to access, easy to search by your business systems. And then if AI can help analyze and structure that data for you, it can become one of the most powerful tools at answering questions. So you can just move from making decisions off of anecdotal evidence and gut to like, no, what is the data and what actually happened?
That's really cool. And I know you guys, I think it was a couple of years ago, raised like a $12 million Series A, and that I'm sure that definitely helps with the with the product development. But I'd love to know, like, what did the early days look like for you guys, right? So you're talking to these restaurants, you're understanding like, okay, there's a lot of simple things, but that's hard for them. So great, identifying the clear pain and how you can kind of maybe build a solution. How do you go about that first version, that 1.0, where you're like, let's test this out? Like, how did you guys go about that? I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we were really lucky to have some great operators here locally where we're at. We're in northern Utah, is where we're based and headquartered out of. And there were some great operators, kind of an emerging fast casual brands that wanted to innovate and wanted to test things. And so we were really fortunate, not having a background in operating, to be able to spend time in these restaurants and with these operators, really understanding their problem. And they were willing to invest. And I think that's one of the greatest things about the restaurant industry is everyone's willing to share their challenges and how they're solving problems, because it affects everyone very similar. Right? We all have our own processes, the different brands, but ubiquitously, most of the main problems affect everyone.
Yeah, agreed.
And so there's that collaborative effort to what is the highest touch problems. And interestingly enough, the products that we're now releasing or have released over the last 9 months, early on, the very beginning, were all identified as the biggest pain points, which was being able to track the guest experience of how long it takes them to go through these experiences that you've designed. And if you make tweaks like adding in kiosks or changing the way that you're doing ordering, adding a portal for pickup, all of these changes, what's the actual result? Like, what does it affect? The technology just wasn't there yet. Computer vision wasn't accurate enough or affordable enough. So we, from looking at that, said, all right, well, the lowest friction point that technology is able to do is move the video to the cloud, and any hardware, no matter, we're not going to have to go purchase a lot of expensive hardware, will allow any operator, as long as they have an open camera system, to be able to move that data to the cloud and start to connect it to business systems. The very first one was the point of sale. Makes natural sense.
Yeah.
But then you start to connect to the labor systems, those security sensors and temperature sensors and other IoT devices that are on site to allow you to search your video by your other systems.
That's cool.
So now you can answer questions quicker.
That's really cool. That's so interesting, because you think about it, and it's so easy, let's say, on the, tech side, meaning, if I think about online companies, it's not trivial. I mean, today it's just A/B testing. I'm going to change this on my website. How does it perform? Or are you having a controlled A/B experiment? And then, let me see the results. But to your point, how do you do that in a real life scenario? And now you have a way. The answer is, hey, cameras are recording a pattern. Now we're going to switch this operational workflow and we're going to measure again. And it makes sense, but it's like so hard to actually execute. And so like what you're doing is, which brings me to my next question is, tackling this, I'm sure is no easy feat. So I'm curious, like, what are some challenges that you maybe didn't see coming when you're working on Savi?
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't develop our own AI models. And from the beginning, we made the bet that models would become commoditized from the generally, high use ones. The second bet that we learned and had to make early because we didn't anticipate how difficult it would be is that there's so much specialization involved once you leave the general human and vehicle detection and tracking. Everything almost becomes custom development, if you will. And that doesn't scale very well, right? For a tech company with limited resources, you almost become more of a professional services firm than providing technology to them. And it's great. You can engage and you can get in there with the customer, but how do you make that economical for them? Because if that's all you can do as a professional services firm, it becomes where the value isn't there for that brand and you can't make it affordable enough for them because you can't reuse it with other brands. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that challenge, like we didn't anticipate it actually requiring that much tweaking. And the second thing is we didn't understand the pain point of how hard it is to keep infrastructure up to date across hundreds and thousands of locations. Like we would meet with brands and there's all of these great ideas around how like they want to solve these problems. And then we dive into it and it's like, oh yeah, well, most of our cameras haven't been updated for 10 years. We don't even know if half of them are working, right?
Oh my God.
And so it was very much the two problems we actually need to be able to solve for people is how do you actually future-proof their infrastructure on site? Because that's one of the biggest, most expensive things is, the tech exists, but how do you implement it and keep it updated across the stores? Right. That's why we had to go to the cloud.
Okay.
Like we started looking at even edge computing like everyone else, and it's like, no, if this truly is a data set that's going to continue to progressively unlock value, you have to move it to the cloud like every other data set. Yeah. And then on the analytics front is where we said, look, we can't be the analytics provider. We need to build our system to very easily and affordably be able to deploy best-in-class models to solve problems for customers, whether that's open source, licensed through APIs. We need to make it easy to adopt all of these different models as technology progresses together rather than being stuck into one ecosystem. And now, luckily those two bets have paid out into fruition that has allowed us to really be able to help unlock the value of the video for those brands.
Yeah, unreal. So for people listening in and they're imagining, okay, I think they get the conceptual idea, but let's go a bit deeper. What does it look like? Let's take, 50 unit, sandwich shop. They're like, hey, I'm Brock. I'm super interested. I heard the Whiskey and All podcast. It sounded interesting. What does the process, let's say, look like? And walk me through the journey. I want to picture like, they talk to you, they maybe do a demo. What does onboarding look like? Do they have to get new hardware or not? Like, when do they start seeing results? I'd love to kind of just, paint the picture for the average client. I know it probably depends on how big the client is, of course, but there's probably some type of process. Yeah.
It's actually like a really, really important question. I think you guys probably run into the same thing in your business is the legacy systems have been so hard to install and adopt and deploy that there's that apprehension. Correct, we literally drop ship. So let's say someone says go. First step is making sure they obviously have cameras in the right areas they want to track.
Got it.
But we don't.
Do you have like a suggested list? Like, hey, this is what most of our clients do. Okay, because if not, I imagine it would be sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So it's like, okay.
Correct.
And so I guess side question, because this is probably something people want to hear too, is what are maybe, I know you already touched on a few, but what are maybe some of the most common things that people want to see? You mentioned opening time. Did they actually show up on time or closing time? What are some other key ones?
Yeah, I'll kind of bucket them into like safety and loss prevention. Coverings and then operational. covering. So if you look from the safety and loss prevention standpoint, and all entrances, right, where someone can come and enter your property, and you'll want to be able to, at those entrances, identify who's being able to come in. So you want to focus on being able to see the person, either their face as they're leaving or as they're entering. From there, areas where cash or inventory could be handled.
Yeah.
And then areas where they're engaging with customers for any he said, she said liability, things of that nature.
Makes sense.
From the operational standpoint, and this is where there's some gaps with some brands, is, well, if you want to track your customer experience, you need to have cameras generally overview of, let's say, that fast casual environment. Right. We need to be able to see the entrance,
see the full
and the flow down the front, right? So you need to have cameras covering that. If it's in the drive-through, you need to be able to have cameras around the building, and you don't have to have complete overlap. It's not like the cameras have to cover everything, but if you want to be able to segment a part of that customer's journey, there has to be a camera there being able to watch it. So
that makes sense.
When we go into brands, because a lot of times there's a POC, right? Of making sure that the system does what we claimed it can do, because there is so much smoke and mirrors out there.
Of course,
but we actually, no matter what, we actually just design a brand playbook for them of like, hey, when you build new sites or with your franchisees, we're not the hardware guys. We can make recommendations to a lot of our great partners that do that. But this is what your brand guide should look like. This is what the register cameras should look like. This is the areas that you should cover, just so that they're prepared for the future.
Yeah,
so if you want that, what's something that our team just does as a consultancy for free, is trying to add value. Whether you're using our services or not, to adopt AI, you're going to need to get the infrastructure right. The labor on site of putting it into the most expensive piece.
Right.
So even if you're like, the technology doesn't exist today, I'm not doing this, put the $100 camera in or the $80 camera in while they're there, because if you're going to use it in the future, far more affordable to do it that way.
Got it.
But if that is in place, which I would say about 70% of the brands we go into, that is in place. They have that.
That's higher than I would have expected. Okay.
Yeah, because you really don't. If you think like, well, drive through, yes, I can actually track the vehicle, the entire experience on the property, and you can do that. But if they're just wanting to start to do a POC and look, they've got a menu board coverage and a pickup window, we can track that very, very accurately. And you can differentiate between line buster processes and regular traditional squawk box pickup window and pay type order flows. If all of that's in place, we drop ship a little device. It's about the size of a cell phone. They plug it in on the same VLAN of the camera system and provide the credentials to that camera system to our team. That's the installation.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Then all the magic starts to happen on the back end, and all that device does, it's actually not doing processing there on the edge.
Okay. Just uploading, basically?
It's just encrypting, compressing, and sending it securely to our cloud.
Okay.
Once the video's there, we'll need to receive credentials to their point-of-sale system through the many great point-of-sale API partners that we have, or if they have their own in-house system sending us that data. We ensure that that's mapped up and the cameras are mapped to the right data points and registers.
Got it.
And then define the areas that the AI is going to track. So this is the menu board. So when we show how many vehicles went through there in the wait time, you know it's that area.
That's cool.
That setup all is done on the back end remotely by our team. And the AI can take up to a week just to calibrate to the property and make sure it's tracking accurately and maybe tweaks to where the lines are drawn. And they're up and running.
That's really cool. So, number one, to our restaurateurs listening, that's actually pretty neat that it's, proof of concept. Sounds like it's a lot less risky than I would have even imagined. You just, like you said, you're getting a shipment of a small device size of a cell phone, kind of plug and play. So that's really cool to hear. Once the data, like you said, might take a bit of time, but once it starts kind of uploading and you guys start doing something with the data, what does the customer experience look like? Are they like typing in questions? Are they saying like, who opened today, or is there like a dashboard that's like opening? Like, I'm just imagining the interaction. What does the interaction look like, let's say, from the customer standpoint, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, we'll talk about what it is today and then where we see it going.
Got it.
So right now there's basically 3 modules inside. There is what we call the cloud VMS, which is, hey, I just want to go look at videos, go back in time, search and do that. And there is that module that they can pull up live video and record it, all of that. Cool. The thing that brands notice with that piece is that the data is not stored on site. So they don't have to wait for it to load and tunnel into that site and risk knocking out their other services. It's just instant. And they can give it to everyone in the organization, and it's never going to touch the local sites network.
That's cool.
To interact with that video because it's already in the cloud.
That's cool.
The second thing is what we call data sync. And that's where you can just search your video instead of asking questions like, well, my register said this, or this employee claimed they clocked in at this time and entered at this. You just say, show me when Angelo clocked in.
That's cool.
On this date. Show me every time there was a customer complaint, I got a chargeback. Show me this transaction ID. And it will just take you to that time.
Nice. You know what it reminds me a bit of? Have you ever used the app? I mean, a bit. It's very different, but similar. Have you ever used the app Descript?
Oh, no.
No? Okay, it's kind of cool. I'll just quickly explain.
I'm going to have to go look at that,
Yeah, it's like not related, but related. But Descript basically makes editing video like editing a Google Doc. So it's like when you upload the video, it transcribes everything. So then if you take out a sentence, you're literally just backspacing and it edits the video at the same time. But it also makes it easy because you can search for a part of the video by words and it goes to that part. So it kind of makes like interacting with the video very simple, I would say, and easy to edit. So it made me think of that as you're kind of talking through, is being able to just see that transaction and it goes to that part of the video. But this is great because half the battle, even just like on a personal level when looking at security footage, is just finding it's half the battle. You spend so much time.
Exactly.
And then you passed it, and then you're like, "Did I pass it?" And then you go back, like that in itself. So I can't imagine when you have dozens and dozens or thousands of locations, depending how big these multi units are. But it's a whole different beast. So that's cool. So for people listening, if they want to find you, I want to plug. I always like to plug, so people we'll put it in the comments too. But if people want to find you, what's the best way to find Savi and to find you? They might be listening to this, and we're not done yet, but they might be listening to this and say, okay, this sounds cool. I want to get a demo. Where could they go?
First and easiest probably is just getsavvy.com. Savi's S-A-V-I. So getsavvy.com, request a demo. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Would love to chat with you and get you connected with some smarter folks on my team that may be able to answer your depth questions. But would love to hear from interactions there. And back to kind of the platform, that third piece, which is actually where we see the most value, is the reporting side of it, which is all of that data is aggregated together to just show you in a really concise
company-wide
what's happening.
Okay, that's hard.
It's really, really difficult because we'll use drive-through. We do drive-through speed of service reporting. It's one of our tools, and any camera system is commercial grade, open, throw it in and we can start tracking, and it's the models do it very, very well. But we had to look at okay, you can now track all this new information. Well, great. You're just throwing more information at people. We'll look at the way things have been done in store historically with loop systems. And there's a red, yellow, green car, right? And it shows that actual car. Well, what's the byproduct of if you're not displaying data the right way? Data should encourage behaviors that drive the end result you want.
Right.
And we've all experienced going in a drive-through, and it maybe was taking a little bit longer because something happened that may or may not have been in control of the employees there, but your vehicle turned red.
Ice cream machine. It's always the ice cream machine.
Yep, it's the ice cream machine or slushie, and I've got kids, so that's what I'm always getting. And maybe I'm blaming the ice cream on the kids, but it's really me. But, right, you get pulled forward. Or they hold you up somewhere else and you're like, what's going on? And then you get forgotten about. It's actually not driving what you want, which is a good customer experience that's consistent. Because you can't control everything, and you might get an order wrong, and there might be refund issues, things like that. But you're looking for a generally consistent experience. So if you look at an isolated single experience, well, that's going to lead to customers or employees making bad decisions because it's not a trend. Right. And so we had to rethink the way that was done. And what I think AI is doing, because there's so much buzzwords out there about it, but it allows you to actually gain insight extremely quick from massive amounts of data. And we believe it's going to change our reporting and our platform as it exists today from very much a find the symptom, go or review the symptom, go find the root cause and take action. right? That's currently today. We believe that review and find is going to be replaced by AI. And it's going to be very much of, hey, you're visiting this location. Here's the checklist of things you need to address. Now, if you want to click on that checklist and go right to that point in time or the data behind that, you can, and make it really easy to do that. Cool. But it's all about just enabling the team to do what they do really well, which is coach their team members instead of spending the time looking for things. Get them the information and insight as quick as possible so they can take action.
That makes sense. I love that. Really well said. I love the way you kind of hit those three kind of core modules. And again, for people listening in, they know where to find you now, which I think is awesome. It sounds like a really valuable tool. I'm always curious sometimes, at least it's happened to us, I'm sure it's happened to you, is, there's the kind of core intended purpose of your solution. And then sometimes kind of customers will find clever, interesting ways that they use it. So I'm curious, have you seen operators using Savi in a way that maybe, surprised you?
Yeah, early on, it was the manual tracking of these customer experience things. Where we're asking, like, wow, you're actually using a lot of just watching video. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh, well, we have our team go in with stopwatches and start the experience of the customer and track it because we made an operational change and we want to see what's happening. And right when we first designed it, never intended it for that.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Great insight for them. Other than that, there's, I'm sure, a myriad of things. What I didn't realize in the beginning, and we were worried about it being pegged as a, and there's nothing wrong with loss prevention. It's a key part of a business. But it's more of like, hey, big brother stick mentality. And we've been so impressed and encouraged by the brands that embrace it as, no, this is all about coaching and stopping negative behaviors and improving. It's not about, I'm in a gotcha moment. It's, hey, you're doing amazing in all of these things. Let's work on this, because everyone wants to know where they can improve. And what other industry, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I'm curious on your perspective on it. One of the things I love most about the hospitality industry, I've met so many VP of Ops, COOs, CEOs of these large businesses that started as like a frontline employee. Where else do you have that upward growth trajectory?
That's true. Actually, that's true. I never thought of it like that, but you're right.
Like, it's phenomenal. It's so, to me, like, love it. Like, man, you're really lifting people up.
Yeah, it's so true.
How do you catch those people when they're young and cultivate an experience and know, like, hey, this person here, we need to keep them because
we got a winner.
There's a winner of someone who's operating hundreds of locations or even 10. They've got a 19-year-old, 20, 22-year-old kid out there just crushing it for their brand. We want that surfaced and highlighted so that they can cultivate and embrace and
that's
keep that talent. So
no, well said. It was funny actually. In my notes, I was preparing notes ahead of time, and it's something I actually really liked that you said, which was basically, or you've spoken about, but using video data to coach, not to police. And I think that's a great distinction, right? Like, of course, security. If so the place gets broken into, of course, you'll use it to police. But from day to day, it's like your angle is, hey, we're here to coach, to improve, either processes or just improve metrics. It's not about policing, which I like. I think it's a really fresh perspective.
Yeah, and keep the human element there. Like, catch if someone's doing something wrong. Help them catch it and correct it when they gave away, $10 to $20 worth of food they shouldn't have been doing before it became what we see in the news of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And now that person's got a record, right? Their whole life trajectory changed where you could have just caught them and corrected them and said, hey, like, these things you're doing, you may not even actually understand originally that you're stealing. Like, take that corrective coaching environment and change the trajectory of that individual versus just,
No, I love that. And one thing that's important, or I think is always important, is, staying connected. So personally, I still do like a handful of demos. I usually try to do with the larger customers, but I'll still do a handful of demos a month. Keeps me close to the customers, understanding pain, right? Like, just solution. Like, it's nice to have that. So just something that I always want to be somewhat part of. Like, I never want to not do it. Obviously, from the early days of doing all the sales to now, things have changed. But I'm curious from your perspective, how do you stay connected to the realities of that frontline staff especially as your company is growing, right? It's growing, you're getting bigger and bigger deals. How do you not lose touch with that kind of core frontline, worker, I guess?
Yeah, there's two parts of our business that I will never stop being involved with. As you know, you have to, right, just get
Yeah.
reports and delegate other opportunities. But I will always spend a lot of time at trade shows or involved in demos with conversations with customers, because
Nice.
that's where the great ideas come
Yeah.
from. And you start to aggregate over time. It's like, okay, I've been to 5 different shows. I've heard this same thing over and
Right.
over again, right?
Right.
I keep my notes, and it's like, guys, no, this is a problem here. Like,
Yeah.
are we able to solve it or
Mhm.
no? And is there a different way that this could be solved? So I agree with you, like 100%. Frontlines out there talking with customers. And then the second is product, with our product team, because you have these really brilliant people that join your team from whether it's a computer science,
Right.
data science, right? And you have them on your team. And you can do some really, really cool stuff. I mean, some of the inventory stuff you're doing for you, like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But like, how does it work for someone working in a restaurant
Exactly.
to actually impact
Exactly.
ROI? And so spending time, like, well, I'm going to go out in the restaurant and observe. I actually joked around with one of our customers the other day. I'm like, hey, you want to, hire me and train me for a week so I can get in there and really actually understand this problem? I probably would be a terrible employee, so they wouldn't do that. Yeah, I think the insight you can gain from talking to customers, observing, and then asking questions, man.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you feel like sometimes in the technology space, we come in and we're like, we've got the answer.
Yeah.
And it's like zero understanding of their business. And we've fallen into that trap before. And when you just go and listen and ask questions and truly understand,
Exactly.
it's like, oh, wow, that's actually something we didn't think was really cool.
Exactly.
The edge actually solves a really big problem.
Yeah, I think that's been kind of a core kind of Whisk philosophy. Is like we're generally, the whole team is quite curious. So I think it might stem from me maybe because I'm a very curious guy, but I think the whole team does a great job of that culture of like asking and kind of pushing a bit, and why do you do it that way, and oh, okay, and why, and it's a good perspective to have, because I think sometimes there's the whole example, like if Henry Ford would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? So it's like there is some truth to not just taking exactly what your customer says, I want this, but it's also like good to listen and to dig and to ask why a few times, and because to your point, when you start seeing patterns, I think that's when it gets interesting. You start kind of uncovering layers, which I think is super cool. And we've seen it. And the funny thing, I don't know if this happened to you, but the funny thing is, even to this day at Whisk, and I always tell this to our product team, I'm like, guys, it's funny, but sometimes the stuff that is low lift product wise and like whatever, we don't think twice about it, is the stuff that on a demo gets the eyes open and wow, that's so cool. And the stuff that took us like 6 months and is super, and maybe is crucial, but like they gloss over, they couldn't care less about it. And don't get me wrong, there's nuances, there's like fundamental things you have to do. But to this day, there's a few things in Whisk that make people, like, I'll give you one example. One is so simple. It's so simple, but it's just like iPhone camera, scanning a bottle pops up on phone. People are like, wow. And like, I'm over it because it's like, it's just a barcode scanner, or a Bluetooth scale. People freak out. Or, we have a calculator in app. That's one of my favorite because it's so subtle. And it was like an afterthought. Like, oh, guys, sometimes people are counting a lot of like beer bottles. And we noticed that they would like quit the app, open their calculator and say, okay, 10 bottles times 3. Let's just add a button to like pop up calculator in app. That one to this day gets the, oh my God, I can use a calculator. So it's funny, but I think there's also a lesson there where sometimes it's like product guys or engineers, we're thinking like 20 steps ahead. And sometimes, to your point, the consumer is just like, I just want to know when they open today. And we're thinking like aggregate data across, and they're just like, I just want to know, did they show up to work today? And it's like, there's a bit of middle ground because of course you want to be thinking about the future and not just, solving tiny problems, but you also want to listen because sometimes what the client wants is kind of realistic,
Yeah. And like, I think one of the things we've found is asking like, okay, great. Yes. The whys, diving on. Okay. Now what are you going to do with it? Yeah. What is your team? Walk me through that process and that's where for us so much insight has come. because then you start to go, oh, it's actually not
Right.
because it's hard for all of us to articulate, well, this is actually what I want, right? We're all terrible at communicating and pinpointing exactly what that is. But when you start to go through the whole process, okay, you're asking for this. Why? What's the problem? Okay, now it's solved for you. What are you doing with it? And right, that's when you can start to go, oh, you don't need more horses. You actually want a more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome. And as we're slowly wrapping up, one thing I always like to kind of dive into is just the future of hospitality tech, basically. And it's it's evolving every day. There's some stuff we're seeing today that's really cool, and but I always like to just get people's perspectives. So from your point of view, you're working in hospitality, you're in the tech space, you're doing some really cool stuff with video and AI, obviously. So in your eyes, where do you kind of see, like, I guess two questions. One is just what current kind of technology is piquing your curiosity? Is there anything that's out there right now that you're like, this stuff is cool?
To step back, I actually like three themes is what I am going to see, is what I see. I'm going to be way wrong on this, right?
Yeah.
One, you're going to need to see deeper integration or consolidation of platforms into platforms.
I agree
because
with that.
AI becomes really, really powerful, but if all of the information is siloed and disparate,
Yep.
And I think one of the things that's driven by that, and we like all have to be very, very careful of and cognizant of, is subscription fatigue is real. I feel it in my business. We have all of these different tools, and it's like, okay, which ones actually are really necessary? And sometimes due to, right, if we're doing is listening to the finance side of the house, it's all about numbers. It's like, no, like, you could charge for that, but like, we just need to, we got to be able to make money and keep business and employ everyone. But it's like, no, you can provide value here. So I actually think you're going to see general technology spend flatten out, or that consolidation actually drive savings for the brands, because it costs money to manage a vendor and a piece of process. So I think you'll see consolidation, deeper integration partnerships amongst, like, Whisk and Savi's are going to eventually need to integrate because the data needs to exist for the end. And we shouldn't be the ones, let's do cool things in our platforms and in our data warehouses, but we need to make sure it's really easy to normalize and provide all of that data up to the end operator. So that's where those deeper integrations, I think.
I could see
and
that.
then I really genuinely think you're going to see a push back to personal engagement.
Okay. Tell me more.
Because technology is abstracting away the mundane, which is, right, a kiosk just extracts away the mundane of ordering, right? And what can I get you? But like, it doesn't stop that experience of my kids in the store and interacting with employees and things like that. I still love at Chick-fil-A when I take my kids in there, they come around and greet, how's everything going? And they bring my kids a sticker. Like, that makes my kids' day. Like, that's why awesome. I can make a chicken sandwich at home. And I think the technology is going to abstract away that mundane, or should. It won't replace people. It's going to amplify them. So that hospitality, whether it's guest to, with the guest and the operator, or team members within the operations, it's going to be more coaching, more personal engagement, as a lot of these things can start to be automated away. And I mean, that's my hope. I think generally humanity is craving connection, just in general. And I'm a big believer in that if you spend too much time isolated, all of the data shows there's a loneliness epidemic going on. If you listen to the U.S. Surgeon General, and people crave that real world interaction.
Connection.
And if you don't have those friends, if you don't have like those people, you can go get that at a restaurant and share a meal of food, interacting with someone.
At the bar. No, it's totally agree. I mean, listen, it's there's a reason that generally the worst punishment is solitary confinement, right? I mean, maybe short of like capital punishment, but in general, like solitary confinement is the worst of the worst, and it's for a reason. Because as a human, I think connection is so important. And I'm with you. I mean, I think there's kind of two schools generally, and I'm more in the school of like, hey, at least on a personal level and a business level, like how could we leverage AI to give people time back to focus on the things they love? It's not to replace them. It's like replace the part that they don't like, which might be reviewing a variance report or understanding where they counted something wrong. Like the part that sucks, not the part, like we're not trying to take away the fun stuff. We're like, let me take away the boring, tedious. Yeah. And I think that's why personally, like I've been optimistic about AI because on a day to day, like I use it to to your point, help me with a lot of mundane tasks and, things that could be easy, like emailing and things like that. But I feel personally it's allowed me to be more creative. And so I think that's where you kind of get excited. The flip side is like everything's bad and it's going to replace me and like this sucks. I'm a little more on the optimistic side. And I think a reason for that is I almost feel more like liberated in the sense that, I feel like, okay, now with all these AI tools, it's like, for at least the way I'm looking at it is I start thinking of like, an orchestra, and now I can actually like orchestrate a lot better because I'm not getting sucked into the super minute details that, are important. And so for me, it's been great because a lot of things I didn't like and I wasn't great at could be simple. But example, building a PowerPoint. But I would visualize, but like building it would take me time. Whereas like some people are just operationally like good. They're like, oh, yeah, no problem. Beautiful PowerPoint or presentation in like 2 hours. It would take me like 2 days. Now with tools, I'm like, I feel empowered because I know what I want. I can describe it. I can prompt it. And it's like, now I'm like, I feel like, yes, I got a superpower. So it's funny. I guess depending on, your personality type, you probably also experience AI in a different way. But for me, it's been generally quite positive because it's been very much a balancing act of a lot of things I didn't like. Whereas yeah.
Oh no, sorry to cut. What's your favorite tool for creating those presentations?
So for the presentation specifically, I've been using a tool called Gamma. Been great.
Okay.
Been solid. It's and I'll use like either a ChatGPT, a Claude, or whatever. Honestly, I usually switch because I always like to just see like how they perform differently.
Exactly.
So I'm always switching. Like even on my phone, I got like Grok and there's a DeepSeek. I like 5.0, my app because I like to test and I find little nuances. But like I'm seeing patterns. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is better when it's email stuff related. This is stronger when it's technical problems. But what I'll do with Gamma as an example is like I'll just come up with a nice prompt so it'll help me. So I'll go through like, hey, I'm building a deck. The deck has to have this. I wanted to make sure the slides include this. I want to blah, 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 blah. Turn this into a prompt I can put into an AI. And then once that gives me a prompt, I use that in Gamma because you could just put a quick prompt. But I find if you take a very good prompt and put it into Gamma, the slides are like perfect. And then I just have my designer touch it up. So like, within an hour, I end up having like a beautiful presentation that's like, so that's just one example. But there's things like that I think that are just, it's nice. I think if you can find a way to buy back time, and in your case, right, with the videos and buying back people time from searching through hours of videos, I think that's a win.
Yeah. What do you see tech? I mean, I know we're getting to the end.
No worries.
Where do you see it going? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, look, I actually agree with you. I think in a weird way, as things become more and more automated and everything's like more outsourced to AI, I think people are going to create that connection. And one of my predictions is I know that generally, full service restaurants is not the growing category compared to, QSR multi-unit chains that are heavily, et cetera. But I do think like the full service restaurant or the bar, like I think are going to make a comeback in the sense that like, do I think, economic reasons that, all of a sudden fine dining is going to skyrocket? Maybe not. People aren't going to be able to afford fine dining, but I think the idea of even if it's a casual, but the sit down, I think people are going to start missing that, just sitting down with your friends over a beer, over a drink, over a meal. So I think that aspect of it, whether it's fast casual or fancier, I think that's going to come back and become more important. I agree with you, your consolidation thing. I see that happening. For me, and I'm biased because I'm in the kind of like back of house space with Whisk and inventory management, but I do see like that as a practical use of AI. Like for me, I think those are the most useful things, at least short term, with all the accounting stuff, inventory stuff, scheduling, maybe like all the kind of tedious, boring, but super important stuff, P&Ls and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's that. And to your point, video tracking. So a lot of the back of house stuff, I think, is going to be more and more automated. And that might include tools, right? Like I forget what it's called, but the avocado slicer from Chipotle there that makes the guac, or so it'll be like robotic. So I think that is already happening and is going to continue happening. I'm curious to see how the front of house will evolve, like as kiosks become more popular and drive-through experience. I'm curious to see, like, to your point, does it fully replace the human experience and you're walking into a place and not seeing any humans at a certain point? Or is it just that now the human experience is a different level and it's, so I'm curious to see where that that leads. That's where I'm at. But for me, definitely back house. I see like no slowing down. A lot of companies and a lot of innovation. And to be honest, I love it because I know most restaurateurs didn't get into their business for their passion of spreadsheets, right? Like they got into their hospitality space to be hospitable, and then they slowly realize, holy shit, there's so much important, boring but necessary stuff I got to do on the back end. So I think that's why, like, in a weird way, it excites me because it's like all this back house stuff, whether it's whisk or accounting stuff or whatever, I know will free up these professionals, hospitality professionals, time, and they can actually start focusing. So I'm excited for that part. As that gets more automated, what's going to happen when all these people have more time on their hands? So we'll see. But with that said, honestly, Brock, it was great. So as we wrap up, I just want to say once again, first of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your experience. For people listening in, we're going to put the links, but just as a reminder, getsavi.com. Savi is SAVI. Setup was a lot simpler than even I thought for the proof of concept. Ship you one little device, connect it, you're good to go. So for people on the fence, I just recommend check it out. Getsavi.com. Worst case, you do a demo, you see what's possible. If it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. But the best case is you now have something that can really help your business and help you make better decisions. So, Brock, with that said, thank you again for joining the Whisking It All podcast.
Absolutely. Sincerely. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it and really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, this is fun. If you want to learn more about Whisk, head to whisk.ai and book a demo.